Make sure to subscribe today and make sure you like and make sure you leave your comments and ideas. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, today we're going to talk about a very interesting topic, and that is the issue of qadr. And how do we understand the issue of qadr, especially in relationship to the end of times? I'm not going to touch upon that so much, and nor am I going to go philosophically deep. But what I want to talk about is the functions of qadr today, based upon a question a sister asked me. So I just want to play this question. If you understand it, that's great. Otherwise, you can listen to the question, because she asks the question of qadr in some detail. And so therefore, because she knows a little bit more detail than what the average person knows, because people generally think qadr is a monolithic aspect, and it's not. So there's like different levels of qadr, which I'll be talking about from the Quran and why. So we can listen to her question, and then inshallah I'll begin to answer her question, inshallah.
I have one small question about qadr. There are different types of qadr is what I learned, that like the qadr of the Lawh al-Mahfuz and the preserved tablets, and which is unchanged and contains every possibility that what would have happened and what actually happened. And then there are other qadrs like the Laylatul Qadr, where it's written down for the next year, or the angels that write down the lifespan and the risk of the baby when it's in the mother's womb and the day it dies, etc. And they even said that there is a fourth qadr, which is the qadr of every day. And I just don't understand why is that needed, you know? You have the final qadr and then the changeable. Why do we need a changeable? Anyway, Allah knows already that let's say it's written when I'm a baby that I'm going to die at 40 years old of a crash accident. And then the Prophet ﷺ tells me that I can make dua which will change my destiny. Or I can make good deeds, be good to my parents, etc., and it will expand my lifespan. So why? Allah already knows that I'm gonna be good to my parents, that I'm gonna do good deeds, that I'm gonna make the dua. Ya Allah, protect me. The day I'm supposed to die, I'm gonna make the dua. Ya Allah, protect me. I'm gonna make ayat kursi. He knows that. Why does he need those secondary decrees, which are really, I find them very unnecessary, and I don't understand. Is it to give an illustration to the angels that they don't know everything, what Bani Adam will do, because they said, oh, will you put somebody who shed blood, so he tries to make a point to them, or what's the point of those qadr that are changeable?
So that's the sister's question. Now let me begin to explain this in this way. I'm going to give the overall view first, and then I'm going to go into the verses of the Quran that talk about the situation. It's a very interesting topic. Let's start by the very basics. Let's say there is a person now. Let's say there's a person, a baby, okay, with Qurans in their hands, and they're by a wall. Now you as a parent are looking at your baby with Qurans in the child's hand, let's say the baby's hands, and you are predicting, you're able to predict, what is this baby going to do? Tell me, what is a baby going to do with Quran in their hands with a wall right by her? You're going to predict, as sensible parents, you're going to predict, oh, the baby's going to write on the wall. But what the baby does is autonomous, completely independent of your knowing what the baby will do. Okay, so over here you have to, even though philosophically it's a circular argument, ultimately if you go into the really deep academics of it, which I'm not going to do today because I'm going to try to really stay within 15 minutes, but a very easy way to understand it is the idhn of Allah and the ilm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Allah in His knowledge, in His absolute knowledge, knows the absolute end result of something. Number one. Number two, he gives you the permission to do something, even if it's against what he is happy with. And he in his knowledge knows what's the end result of what you will do, what he's given you permission to do. And that permission has maybe different options or less options. And I'm going to talk about this, if I remember, towards the end of our discussion. So, Qadr is, I'm going to mention two companions of the Prophet ﷺ just to start off this discussion, okay? Ali radiallahu anhu was asked, what is Qadr? You know, and Ali said, okay, get on your 1 feet. Instead of being on 2 feet, get on 1 feet. So the person started standing on 1 feet. Then Ali said, okay, lift your other leg. Now, don't get off both feet. You can't do that, obviously, right? And so that is the Qadr. That Qadr means, you know, Qudrah. Qudrah means the nature of things, okay? So this is Ali radiallahu anhu. Omar radiallahu anhu explains it also really well. There was a city in which there was a plague, and he was going towards that city. He heard that there's a plague, and he turns back. And one of the companions said, are you running away from the Qadr of Allah? Are you running away from your destiny? He said, I'm going from one Qadr to another Qadr. You know, poison has a certain nature, has a certain Qadr, right? Qadr also means number or value. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مَا قَدَرُ اللَّهَ حَقَّ قَدْرِ in Surah Al-Hajj. مَا قَدَرُ اللَّهَ Qadr. They didn't care for Allah. They didn't value. Qadr is a value. Okay, and we're going to look at that one verse in the Quran that comes, because the two most emphasized attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran are the Qadr of Allah and ilm of Allah. The Allah's ability to do anything and Allah's knowledge of everything. Okay, and so these are the two most hammered, you can say, most emphasized. Allah wants to really hammer this into our consciousness, that He has the ability to do anything. أَعْلَمُ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. In Allah ala kulli shay'in alim. And Allah has the ability, has the knowledge of everything. So, Qadr means the nature of something. Poison has a certain nature. The medicine has a certain nature. Everything has a certain nature. Just keep this in mind. Okay? And so, in this ayah, in Surah Al-Taghabun, this surah is the basic surah of Imaniyat. Okay? Surah Al-Taghabun. يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض له الملك وله الحمد وهو على كل شيء قدير. وهو, and he is, على, over, kulli, everything, shay'in, everything, qadir. He has abilities over, he has the power over everything. You know, Laylatul Qadr, the night of the power sometimes. So Qadr also can mean power, but Qadr can also mean value of something. Okay? Qadr can also mean the nature of something, which was going to come in the next verse. Qadr also means knowing the value of something. So, inna wa huwa ala, and he is over all things. Qadir, he is over all things. Powerful is one meaning. He has a value over everything. Wa ahsa kulla shay'in adada, like in Surah Al-Jinn. He understands the value of everything. Okay, and let me see. So anyway, Qadr means the nature of things in terms of the things of the world. Okay, and then there is the Qadr, which is the knowledge of Allah, meaning that is the destiny, that is the fixed ultimate value. Okay, and then next verse I want to talk about, سبح لله ما في سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى. What does it mean? سبح اسم ربك الأعلى. Perfect is the name of your Rabb, A'la, who is most high, most supreme. Alladhi, the one, khalaqa fasawwa. He created it, and then he put balance to it, proportioned it. Walladhi, and the one who gave it qudra, he gave it its nature. So a cow has a certain nature, and then Allah leads that cow to eat and drink what it needs to eat and drink. It has a certain nature. وَالَّذِي قَدَّرَ فَهَدَى. Now you have a certain nature, and now He's letting you go, be guided in the direction you need to be guided into. Allah created bees, honeybees. Now they have a certain nature, and they're guided into the direction in order to do what they're meant to do. Okay, Allah created everything. So Qadr has different meanings in relationship to Allah Himself, what it is, and then his creation, then the format in which this goes, which I will talk about in a second. Surah Yusuf is a good example. Look, it's not like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wrote a script and we're following a script. This is not, that even a playwright can do that. A person who writes a book can do that. A person who writes plays can do that, right? He can write a script, and this is not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Yusuf had the dream, Ya abati inni ra'aytu ahada ashra kawkaban wa shamsa wal qamar ra'aytahum li sajidin. Oh my dad, I saw Ya abati inni ra'aytu ahada ashra. I saw 11 stars and the sun and the moon bow down to me. And now this is a dream, and the dream sometimes for the believers is true. So this was a true dream. Now this dream was going to come true, and his father knew this dream, that this dream was going to come true when they had said we killed Yusuf, and so he didn't really 100% believe that, as the verses of the Quran make clear. But the question is, did the brothers of Yusuf have complete autonomy and free will in what they did? Allah's glory is that despite giving you full freedom, full human will, Allah allows you to do whatever you're going to do, and despite that, what Allah has known to happen will happen, and what Allah has destined to happen will happen. So it's not the idea of free will, or the idea of qadr, is not that you're on a script. It's not that you're on a script. It is that despite being not on a script, because Allah's knowledge is complete, things will happen. What Allah knows will happen, number one. Number two, Allah knows what will happen. Why? Because only He is Inna Allah ala kulli shayin qadir. He is over all things. He knows their nature. He is the one who fully understands the nature of all things. He's the one who understands the nature of all things. So He's the only one who can factor in the value and what will happen and the effect of things like the butterfly effect or the chaos theory. He's the one who best understands things. And what is the nature of things? The nature of things has outcomes. And so He best understands what He has created, and He best understands the outcome of what He has created. So in that sense, this has to do with Allah. But in terms of what He has created, everything has a certain nature and is working according to that nature. Kullu ya'maluna ala shakilati. Everyone is working according to their genes, according to their shakl, shakila, according to their picture, their genes, you can say. So, the brothers of Yusuf had free will. They did what they did, but what Allah had known the nature of things, how they would be, Allah knew the nature of things, how they would turn out, and then that's how they turned out. Now, you're talking about the different levels. Allah has the full nature of understanding, a full nature of things. Allah gives the yearly budget, 1 year budget, to the angels. Okay? إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ فِي لَيْلَةِ الْقَدْرِ وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ خَيْرٌ مِنْ أَلْفِ شَهْرٍ تَنَزَّلُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ وَالرُّوحُ فِيهَا بِإِذْنِ رَبِّهِمْ مِنْ كُلِّ أَمْرٍ. The angels and the Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam and the angels, تَنَزَّلُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ وَالرُّوحُ فِيهَا, on that night, بِإِذْنِ رَبِّهِمْ, by the permission of their Lord, مِنْ كُلِّ أَمْرٍ, of all the affairs. All the affairs of whatever is going to happen is put into their hands for how much? 1 year. This is why even the shayateen, if they listen to them, they go to the sky and they try to listen, they can't, مَقَائِدَ السَّمْعِ, they try to sit in places to listen to what the angels are talking about, to get an idea so they can go back to the magicians, and so that they can prophesy. But they have only that 1 year budget. Now, why is Allah not telling them, for example, a person has a business, right? So Allah says, Allah knows ultimately this business will die. Ultimately 10 years, 20 years, this business will die. But what will ultimately happen is not the business of the angels. The business, let's say this year, but this year the business is going to be very profitable. Why is Allah going to give them, the angels, the information that is not useful to them at that time of their moment of task? And so the moment of task is for that year. So they come down to the dunya to help that person in his expanding of rizq. Then maybe 20 years, Allah will say, okay, now, قَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ, his rizq will be made restricted. سَلَامٌ هِيَ حَتَّى مَطْلَعِ الْفَجْرِ. Again, but here, The purpose of these commandments to come down and for Qadr to come down on Laylatul Qadr is not negative. Let's say somebody's going to die. Nothing is negative. Salamun. All is for good purpose. All is for peace. All of the angels coming down, the commandments they're giving down, because whatever Allah does, khayrihi or sharrihi, there is khayr, there is shar relatively, but ultimately everything is biyadihi al-khayr. Everything is good. Okay? Allah created evil, but even from that evil, Allah brings out some good. Okay? So, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ مِنْ شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ. Allah created the evil, but Allah brings out good because of it. Now, the word qadr also means to restrict something. So if somebody has barakah, his options, Allah gives him many options, gives him many barakah. He can do things in 10 different ways. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when somebody loses barakah in their rizq, then their options become less, restricted. وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَلَهُ مَعِيشًا ضَنْقًا. Whoever turns away from my remembrance, I make his ma'ash, his livelihood, restricted. Even if he has money, but he feels like he has no money. So Allah says in these two verses, فَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانُ إِذَا مَبْتَلَاهُ فَأَكْرَمَهُ وَنَعَمَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَكْرَمًا. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests someone, and gives him honor and gives him ni'mah, يَقُولُ رَبِّي أَكْرَمًا. He says, Allah has honored me. وَأَمَّا إِذَا مَبْتَلَاهُ فَقَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala restricts your qadr, Allah puts qadr on it, restriction on it. One meaning of Laylatul Qadr even, Laylatul Qadr, is that the world becomes restricted because angels are everywhere. There's no space, there's no empty space, everything is restricted. But that's like in a little bit deeper tafsir. Okay? So, then there are, like a computer. Your computer has certain things you can change and certain things you can't change. Everything comes in a default. Everything comes with a certain setting. Now, you were asking about dua. So that's what I'm coming to now. There's certain things that are default, but they can be changed. But there's certain things you can't change. If it's a Windows operating system, right, you can't change it into a Mac, right? You have to use Windows. So there's certain things that are not going to change. And then there's certain things that could change, even though Allah knows. But because Allah is testing you and you have free will, you have the free will to act according to your free will, which is part of that qadr. Your free will is part of that qadr. And part of that free will is and part of that free will is your relationship with Allah is part of dua. Right? The idea of qadr is simply that everything has a certain nature. And dua is one of those things that have a nature, have a certain effect. Just like medicine has a certain effect, just like poison has a certain effect. But certain things are fixed. So some of the things that are almost fixed, depending upon how you read this verse of the Quran, for example, the last verse, I believe, of Surah Luqman. Inna Allah indahu ilmus sa'ah. Number 1. Indeed with Allah, Inna Allah indahu ilmus sa'ah. Wa yanzilul ghaytha wa ya'lamu ma fil arham. And He knows what is going to come down in terms of rain. Okay? And وَيَعْلَمُ مَا فِي الْأَرْحَامِ. And He knows what is in the womb. وَمَا تَدْرِي نَفْسٌ مَاذَا تَكْسِبُ غَدًا. And no one knows what they're going to earn for tomorrow. Right? وَمَا تَدْرِي نَفْسٌ بِأَيِّ أَرْضٍ تَمُوتُ. Nor any soul knows which part of the earth they're going to die in. إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلِيمٌ خَبِيرٌ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is alimun khabir. The one that is absolute here is the first one, Inna Allah indahu ilmus sa'ah, right? And then the others, they continue with waw, and that waw, whether it contains the inna, the emphasis of inna or not, is a longer discussion. But Allah knows what's in the womb, whether if it's going to be good, whether if it's going to be bad, right? Whether it is Allah knows about the rain, more than how much participation is going to take place in any given part. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what a person will ultimately earn at the end of the day in terms of good deeds, bad deeds, in terms of provision, right? وَمَا تَدْرِي نَفْسٌ بِأَيِّ أَرْضٍ تَمُوتُ. Nor does any soul know in which earth they will die. You don't know where your grave is. You don't know where your earth is going to be. Many people buy graves, but they die somewhere else, right? So, and then you also have this hadith, right? إِنَّ أَحَدَكُمْ يَجْمَعُ خَلْقَهُ فِي بَطْنِ أُمِّهِ 40 يَوْمًا. somebody stays in the when Allah creates a womb, in the womb a baby, right? He stays in the womb of the mother 40 يوما for 40 days. ثم يكون علقة. First it's a placenta, okay? مثل ذلك ثم يكون مضغة. Then it's like a meat-like substance. مثل ذلك ثم يبعث الله ملائكة فيأمر بأربع كلمات. And Allah commands it with 4 words, 4 things, okay? يقال له اكتب عمله. Write down. The angel is told to write down 4 things. Write down his deeds, whether he'll be good or bad. Now, what is he writing down? His ultimate thing. See, the scholars of Islam say, when Omar radiallahu anh was worshipping the idols, Allah knew that he would be a great... So Allah loved Omar even though he was worshipping idols, because Allah knew the ultimate. And so this is, part of that ultimate, you can say. Now, why? There are many aspects to this, which I will, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show, this is what was written in your womb, and this is the record of your deeds. Now you can compare. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fully knew you, and fully knew and is therefore justified that you did what He knew you would do. Okay? اكتب عمله ورزقه, and his provision, وأجله, and his death, شقيئا أو سعيدا, and his ending, whether he will be happy, meaning in Jannah, or the hell, right? ثم ينفخ فيه روح بروح, and then the ruh is put into the body, okay? And again, there are many other verses of the Quran that talk about this. Now, so this is, there was another verse that I actually wanted to share with you. This is now, we use the word qadr generally for the things, like the nature of things, like poison and medicine. When Allah talks about Himself, He uses sometimes a different word. And that different word is kitab, book. Okay? Kitab meaning in the knowledge of Allah. So, Mawlana Shabir Usmani rahmatullahi alayhi and other scholars have talked about the word qadr with Allah is kitab. Okay, so for example, this verse of Surah Al-Hadid. مَا أَصَابَ مِن مُصِيبَةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَا فِي أَنفُسِكُمْ. There's no difficulty that comes upon this earth collectively, وَلَا فِي أَنفُسِكُمْ, or as you individuals. إِلَّا فِي كِتَابٍ مِّن قَبْلِ أَن نَبْرَأَهَا, except it is in a book already written. إِنَّ ذَلِكَ عَلَى اللَّهِ يَسِيرٌ. This is so easy for us. This is so easy for Allah. إِنَّ ذَلِكَ عَلَى اللَّهِ يَسِيرٌ. This is over Allah so easy. إِلَّا فِي كِتَابٍ, except it's already in a book. Meaning in the knowledge of Allah. Allah already knew what would happen, and whatever difficulty, whatever musibah, مَا أَصَابَ مِن مُصِيبَةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ, there's no calamity that comes upon you on earth or individually, except Allah already has it in a written book. Now, it starts with Allah's knowledge, and then بَلْ هُوَ قُرْآنٌ مَجِيدٌ فِي لَوْحٍ مَحْفُوظٍ. From لَوْحٍ مَحْفُوظ, but لَوْحٍ مَحْفُوظ, in the center of it is Quran, or part of it is Quran. And then the destinies of the whole universe, every individual, everything is there. Then from Allah's knowledge to Lawhin Mahfuz, and then from there the angels are given according to the works that they have to do from one Laylatul Qadr to the next Laylatul Qadr. Okay? Then, so that's the format. Okay? Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala choose? And then there is the creation of Allah, and everything in the creation of Allah has its nature. And so all these things are connected when it comes to humanity, when it comes to human beings, to show human being that no injustice is going to be done to you. That if there was some calamity upon you, Allah knew it, and Allah's knowing it means what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew what He was doing, and therefore was not being unfair. And so, qadri, believing in qadr, khayrihi wa sharrihi, whatever good or evil comes to you of the things, right, of the things He created, which is the nature of things, the good of the nature of the things and the bad, evil of the nature of things, however it comes upon you and affects you, you believe that that's Allah. Allah knows the qadri khayrihi wa sharrihi, right? Let me just over here it says قدره على خيره وشره فوق الأسباب. meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ultimately knows the good nature or the bad nature of things like poison and medicine, for example, beyond what is asbab, what we know in the world of causes. He knows the ultimate result, right? And so I think I've spoken enough on this issue. Inshallah, jazakumullah khairan. I hope I answered your question. And so now you can also see the format. You can also understand why angels are given 1 year, and then everything in the universe has its qadr, has its nature, and Allah has the knowledge and the value and the power over all the things that He created. Okay, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shares only that much which is needed, right, with the angels. So I hope that inshallah answers your question. And then there is the Lawhim Mahfuz, and Qadr, when it relates to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah uses the word kitab. ما أصاب من مصيبة في الأرض ولا في أنفسكم إلا في كتاب من قبل أن نبرأها إن ذلك على الله يسير. I hope inshallah this will become a source of knowledge for all of us. جزاكم الله خيرا. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.